Welcome to today's edition of the Statler Financial Radio Show. Your financial security is our business. Have a question for the team? Call today, 863-877-1188. That's 863-877-1188.
Hello and welcome to the Statler Financial Radio Show. I'm your host, Stephanie Griffin, and today we're talking about some hard financial truths. The goal isn't to scare you, but the goal is to help you prepare. We want to be prepared for retirement. So here to help us do that is Philip Statler, president and founder of the Statler Financial Services. And, as you're listening to today's show, if you feel like you can use some help in some or all of the areas, don't hesitate to call Statler Financial Services for a free meeting with the team. They're here to help, and the meeting doesn't cost you anything. Just call 863-877-1188. Write that number down, and you may need it throughout the show, 863-877-1188. Hi, Philip. You have a special guest in the studio with you, don't you?
Yeah, I do. Stephanie, today is, our golden doodle that was always at the office. Charlie passed away about a year ago now. But we have a new puppy who is 8.5 months old now. Oh. So Josie is with me today in the office. She doesn't get to come a whole lot yet because she's still working on her manners.
Well, of course.
And so at 8.5, she doesn't quite have the manners down yet. But she's with me today. So if you hear a little whining or a bark here or there,
or clip clop of the feet.
That's what it is. So
very good. And Josie, what a cute name. And she is so cute anyway. She really is. Let's get started on the show today. Let's talk about Social Security. According to reports, these benefits have lost about 20% of their buying power since 2010, even with cost of living adjustments. Why is that such a serious problem for retirees, Philip?
Well, if you think about it, Stephanie, it means that folks who rely on just Social Security have lost 20% of their purchasing power. That means not only has inflation gone up, but we can't buy as much as we used to buy with that Social Security check. And it gets less and less, it seems like, every year. Now, I know there's this COLA adjustment that goes with inflation that people get that are on Social Security. And sometimes that number's low. Sometimes that number's bigger. Obviously, bigger is better. People like that more. However, a lot of that COLA inflation does not include things like healthcare inflation. Well, it's been a long time now. They actually switched which COLA, which factor they used to make the adjustment for the COLA. So they used to use a different inflation number, and they switched, I think because it wasn't as volatile, they said. So, but it means that people haven't gotten as big a raises as they probably would have gotten under the other one. And let's just face it, Stephanie, Social Security was never designed or intended to cover all of a retiree's expense. It was made to be a supplement to their other income.
Right.
However, that's all changed, right? We don't get, people do get pensions, but not as many people, especially in the private sector, do not get pensions. Yeah, they have a 401k, but that means they have to create their own pension down the road. And a lot of times that's tough for people to do. And so really, what's the solution? What do you do about all this? Well, really the solution is to help build a plan that doesn't depend on Social Security alone, that you've got other income sources to draw from. And so I think we'll talk about that a little bit more.
And Social Security's trust funds, they're projected to run short if lawmakers do nothing. So benefits could face an automatic 19% cut in 2034. How should retirees react to that?
Well, first of all, don't panic.
Right.
Well, we shouldn't panic, but you should plan as if future benefits may be lower, because we don't know. I'll say, my opinion is that they'll figure out some way to fix it, because otherwise there'll be a national revolt. Right? If you cut retirees' income by 19 or 20%, what do you think is going to happen? Nobody in Washington is going to have a job, come next election cycle. So I think they will, as always, they wait to the very, 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 very last minute when their feet are to the fire and they have to do something. They'll get this figured out. Now, I could be totally wrong, but that's just my opinion. And so I think this is where having a strong retirement strategy and really stress test your income really comes into play, and it will give you some more confidence in where you are and how you're doing. The more income sources that you control can really help reduce the damage that the shortfall could do if it does happen. And I think flexibility now can help give you more choices later. I mean, just some things to think about there.
Very good advice. And you are listening to the Statler Financial Radio Show. We're talking about hard truths in retirement. The next one is healthcare. Retirees may need hundreds of thousands of dollars for out-of-pocket healthcare costs over the course of retirement. How should people prepare for that reality?
Well, let me back up first, because this is one of those things that I feel like sometimes is a scare tactic, because it's a big number they throw out there. Usually it's $250,000, $300,000 that somebody's going to spend in healthcare on during retirement. And let's remember that retirement could be 30 years. Right. So yes, it is a big number. But you break it down annually, it's not as scary as the big number, right? So let's dive in a little bit. So healthcare cost is most likely going to be the largest expense, one of the largest expenses in retirement. By the time you take your Medicare Part B, your Medicare Part D, your healthcare Medicare supplement, all those things get added into healthcare costs. So, it does become a larger expense. Medicare helps, but let's face it doesn't cover everything. It doesn't cover long-term care costs, those type of things. And so really a retirement plan needs a dedicated strategy to cover those costs. It needs to make sure that we've built those things into our income plans. The earlier you prepare for healthcare inflation, the less likely it is to derail your plan as a whole. Listen, folks, I worked hard many years ago to develop a core retirement design where we look at things that are very important when it comes to planning. And I know today's show is going to raise a lot of questions that you need to probably address. And that's a good thing, because we want you thinking about it now before it's too late. That gives you an opportunity to plan ahead and not be reactive. We'd love to help. If you've saved at least $250,000 for retirement, call us here at Statler Financial. That number is 863-877-1188, 863-877-1188. I'd love to meet you, see where you are right now, and see what you need to do to make sure that you have the retirement you always dreamed of.
This is the Statler Financial Radio Show with founder and president of Statler Financial Services, Philip Statler. And if you're just tuning in, we're talking with Philip today about some of the hard financial truths retirees need to face while we still have time to plan for them. So, Philip, another one, all right? The old 4% rule, it's officially outdated. It's done pretty much. New research suggests a 3.7% starting withdrawal rate, which may be safer for new retirees instead of the 4% one. What is your reaction to that?
Well, I've always said that the 4% rule was has been old and outdated for a while.
Right.
I mean, you go back to 07, 08, when we had that big, long, protracted bear market, people learned right then that 4% really didn't work during that time span. And so we look at a little different system to doing that. And that's really, looking at some guardrails and where we are and being able to make adjustments on the fly So going from 4 to 3.7, it sounds like a small difference, but it could be thousands of dollars a year, right? I mean, that little bit could be a big number. So here's the deal. You can't rely on a rule of thumb anyway, because everybody's different. So you need a customized strategy that's going to be for you, not for John and Sally down the road, but for you specifically, because your whole situation is going to be different than somebody else's. And so we need to put together a customized strategy. And that's really what we work on here, Stephanie, is making sure that everything is customized to our clients.
Very good. Yes, that's what we want for sure. We want that personal touch, if you will. So why is relying on outdated retirement rules, why is that so dangerous right now?
Well, one is we're living longer, which means retirement lasts longer now. And we know after the last few years, inflation has raised its ugly head after being pretty much dormant for a while. And so that has become a deal. Things cost more now. Inflation is a huge detriment right now in our current economy. And we've seen some market swings even in this year. The first quarter wasn't real great. I mean, it's bounced back some since, but there's some big swings in the market, and depending upon what's happening geopolitically. What's worked in the past for retirees may not work for someone that's retiring today. It takes new tools to get through it. Even a solid nest egg can come under pressure if you don't use the right assumptions. If your assumptions are way off, it can be a detriment. And then I think modern retirement planning isn't the same as it used to be. You've got to really flip the switch and make some changes in the way you look at investments, the way you look at planning. I talked to a gentleman not too long ago, and he said it right. He was 83 years old. He said, Philip, he says, when you retire, you have to start thinking differently. And I did not do that soon enough. It's a different train of thought when you retire versus when you're working. And he's right on.
Right.
And I think that's one of the things that people don't do that they need to do.
Now, we actually have we're about 40 seconds left. So something interesting, according to reports, confidence in retirement savings lasting longer jumped from 41% to 71% for those who work with a financial professional. That's huge. People need to take note of that.
Well, they do. And why? Because they have confidence, right? The financial professional has a plan in place for those folks. And so that's huge. It gives them confidence that where they are and how they're going to get there is going to get them to the end. And that's important.
Very much so. Well, if you are looking to build your savings into a plan, call the team at Statler Financial, 863-877-1188. And the Statler Financial Radio Show will be right back. Turn your plans of yesterday into yes today. Don't wait another day for a routine checkup of your retirement plans. Call Statler Financial Services, 863-285-3815. That's 863-285-3815.
Surprise parties can be fun.
Surprise!
Financial surprises, not so much, especially when you're retired, like finding out you owe more in taxes than you thought you would, or having to go back to work to make ends meet. Maybe you'll be okay, but why not double check just to be sure? Call Philip Statler at Statler Financial Services and schedule a no-cost retirement double check at 863-877-1188. Philip and his team have seen their fair share of surprises over the years and know how to help you avoid them. Call 863-877-1188 to schedule your no-cost retirement double check with Philip Statler at Statler Financial Services. Don't let a financial surprise derail your retirement dreams. Call 863-877-1188 now. That's 863-877-1188. You can also visit StatlerFinancial.com for more info. Advisory services are offered through Second Half Financial Partners, LLC, an SEC registered investment advisor. time to retire right. This is the Statler Financial Radio Show.
Welcome back to the Statler Financial Radio Show with President and founder of Statler Financial Services, Philip Statler. If you are someone who has laid a strong financial foundation and would like help with figuring out how to manage it, call Philip and his team at Statler Financial, 863-877-1188. That number again, 863-877-1188. Philip has over 2 decades of experience in the financial industry, and he'd love to sit down and talk with you about where you are right now in retirement and how things look for you. Most people spend their entire working lives looking forward to retirement as a time when things finally get simpler, which is a good thing, including the tax bill, of course. We don't want anything complicated about that. So when I tell you that for many retirees, taxes often get more complicated and can actually go up after they stop working, and that is hard to believe. Something I believe most people didn't know, Philip. Why are so many retirees blindsided by a tax bill they never saw coming?
That's really interesting because as a person who actually is involved in taxes on a regular basis, because we have a tax practice as well, I can't tell you how many folks would call me and say, Philip, I'm retiring. I don't think I'm going to need your services after this year because I'm retired. I don't have to pay taxes anymore. Yeah, that's some faulty assumptions there, right? So a lot of people think no income from employment means lower taxes. And that may be true at the beginning. It depends, right? Everybody's going to be different. But there's also fewer deductions. Not that people get to deduct much anymore because of the new tax laws and the higher standard deduction. But as we get older, mortgages are paid off. Kids are grown. We don't get that deduction anymore. So income is exposed to taxes more than what they were before. People think because I'm not working, I don't have to pay taxes. Well, you have to take, a lot of you have pensions out there. That's taxable income. You're drawing Social Security. Guess what? It's not always tax-free. As a matter of fact, the majority of the people that I talk to end up paying tax on up to between 50 and 85% of their Social Security ends up being taxable.
Wow.
Yeah. And remember, every time you take money out of your IRA or your 401k, that's 100% taxable. So that, there is taxable income still coming into you. And most people, they have a tax preparer, but they don't have a plan. They don't have a tax plan. And there's a huge difference when it comes to the outcomes, Stephanie.
Right, definitely, I'm sure. And something you mentioned, Social Security becomes taxable. Many people think their Social Security check is tax-free, and that's not true, right?
Well, that's really true. You're right. That is not correct. It is not tax-free. Especially, there's a big confusion now because of the big, beautiful bill, right? Because, Trump was, your Social Security would now be tax-free. Well, that's not quite true. There were some provisions made so that people do get some added benefits and deductions, but it's income-based. I had a lot of retirees who this year sold a piece of property, had big capital gains. Guess what? They didn't get the deduction this year. So it has become a more complex calculation. It depends on this thing called provisional income, which will be more than most people will understand, but I'm going to give you the formula so that you know how complicated it is, right? It is your AGI, your adjusted gross income. You get to add to that your tax-exempt interest and then half your Social Security.
Wow.
That is your provisional income. And if that provisional income for a married couple is more than $32,000, up to 50% of your Social Security may be taxable. If you cross the higher threshold, could be up to 85%, so could be taxable. And that 32,000 has not changed since 1982 when this went into effect. Same thing for single folks. Their provisional income base is 25,000 is the threshold. So the thresholds were set, like I said, in 1983. And then In 1993 is when the 85% rule became effective. At the beginning, it was just 50%, but now it's up to 85%. And those things have never been adjusted for inflation. So think about how that feels in today's world. And so then the tax torpedo is, how do we do it? Well, we need to have some more withdrawal. We need to put more money away for taxes, which takes away from our spendable income. And that's can be a problem.
That whole thing is a lot that you just said. It's a lot. So, how do people end up in this situation without anyone warning them?
Well, you said it's a lot. It is a lot. And people always ask, well, how much of my Social Security is going to be taxable? Dude, I got to go through that whole calculation to determine how much your Social Security is going to be taxable. That's a big deal. But tax preparation is backward looking, right? Tax planning is forward looking. They're completely different activities. Tax preparation is historically looking at what happened last year. Tax planning is looking ahead for this year. What do I need to do? What changes do I need to make to pay the least amount of taxes possible? Many financial advisors focus on investments. They have no idea about the tax implications. And tell clients to ask your CPA, who may not know the full financial picture, right? That's the other thing. You talk to the tax guy, well, he doesn't know what the financial guy has done. That's why I got to tell you, there are some benefits to having one person that takes care of all of it, because now they know the tax side and they know the financial side, and they know the whole picture. And so that can be very beneficial. And so the other thing is, without a multi-year projection showing how IRA withdrawals, how Social Security and investment income are going to all interact, the problem can be invisible until it's already happening. So it all comes down to this, Stephanie. Have a plan. We need to have a plan. And that's what our core retirement design does. It helps us plan not only the tax aspect, the risk aspect, and then also the income part. Give us a call. Let's chat about where you are, where you need to go, and how to get there. 863-877-1188. That's 863-877-1188.
And you're listening to the Statler Financial Radio Show. So, Philip, since everyone's income sources are different, Social Security timing, pension, IRA size, how can you help customize the approach for each individual person?
Well, here's the deal. You have to take the time, ask the right questions, right? And then you have to look at, it's not so much income. It is income. You need income, but it's the other side of the equation. What are they spending? How much are we spending? Because that determines how much we withdraw from our IRA. What does that look like? And so that's where we have to sit down and really look at where somebody is, how much income they're going to need, and where's the best place to take that income from. Do they have a Roth IRA? Do they only have a 401k and Social Security? And is it all tax deferred? These are things that we have to look at for each individual person to determine what that plan is going to look like for them, because it is different. And I said all the time, what Mary and Sue do and John and Alice do can all be different. And it has to be different because nobody has the exact same circumstance. Some people have pensions, some people don't. Some people's Social Security is big enough that it covers all their expenses. Some people, it's so small, it's hardly enough to cover anything. So it takes planning to get those things under control, Stephanie.
So for somebody who wants to stop just filing their taxes and start planning for them, what is the first step they can take today?
Well, I think it's one, finding an advisor who is forward thinking and does understand taxes.
Right.
and knows, how they work, what the differences are, and how best to come up with an income plan to do, to get the most out of tax dollars. And I will say this because some people get confused when we start talking about tax planning and why am I paying taxes this year? Well, sometimes it's better to pay them this year and next year than have to pay them down the road, right? So one of the things that we look at here at Statler Financial is we don't look at this year and next year's taxes. We don't look at taxes for the next 5 years. I want to look at what is your tax bill for the rest of your retirement. And what is your tax bill to your beneficiaries when you're gone? What's the tax bill going to be to your spouse when you pass away? These are all things that people don't realize, that your spouse's tax bill is going to go up significantly most of the time if everything stays intact. And people don't realize that. And those are the situations that we look at and the scenarios that we talk about when we start looking at planning in retirement. Because it's not just a one size fits all. Everybody's circumstances are going to be different. Who they're leaving who their beneficiaries are going to be different. And so that means everybody's plan is going to be different. And that's the key. We need to be prepared for what's going to come, not just in taxes, but what the market's going to do to us. There's just a lot of moving parts that we have to make sure we understand and have under control.
I didn't know this until recently that I thought when we retire, no taxes. And I think most people think that, Philip. You would think the government would say, let's give them a break and not do the tax thing. So I'm sure you have a lot of people that come into your office and say that or think that, don't you?
They do. They think that. They think their taxes are going to be less.
Right.
But what they don't realize is they retire at 67 and they start drawing Social Security. They take a little bit out of their IRA to supplement their income, but they don't, not enough, to diminish their IRA. So it keeps growing and it keeps growing. And at 73 or 75, depending upon what year you were born, mm-hmm. all of a sudden you have to start taking money out of your IRA. It's this round ball that just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger as it rolls down the hill.
Sure. Endless cycle, it sounds like. Gosh, Philip, coming up after the break, the 3-bucket strategy that turns your tax bill from something that happens to you into something that actually you have more control over, and why the difference could be worth tens of thousands of dollars over a retirement. The Statler Financial Radio Show will be right back.
Needing a second opinion on your retirement plan or to see if you're paying more than your fair share to Uncle Sam? Schedule your complimentary visit today. Text VISIT to 863-877-1188. That's VISIT to 863-877-1188.
Surprise parties can be fun. Financial surprises, not so much, especially when you're retired, like finding out you owe more in taxes than you thought you would, or having to go back to work to make ends meet. Maybe you'll be okay, but why not double check just to be sure? Call Philip Statler at Statler Financial Services and schedule a no-cost retirement double check at 863-877-1188. Philip and his team have seen their fair share of surprises over the years and know how to help you avoid them. Call 863-877-1188 to schedule your no-cost retirement double check with Philip Statler at Statler Financial Services. Don't let a financial surprise derail your retirement dreams. Call 863-877-1188 now. That's 863-877-1188. You can also visit StatlerFinancial.com for more info. Advisory services are offered through Second Half Financial Partners, LLC, an SEC registered investment advisor.
Welcome back to the Statler Financial Radio Show. Before the break, we laid out how retirement plan withdrawals and Social Security taxation can conspire to push a retiree's tax bill far higher than expected. Now I want to get into potential solutions. Philip, you have a concept called tax diversification. Tell us what that means.
So tax diversification, I know it's a mouthful.
It is a
Stephanie.
mouthful.
I get it. Um, so it means that having retirement savings spread across three different types of accounts, three different tax types of accounts, right? And each one of them gets taxed differently. So bucket number one is your pre-tax money. A lot of you have that. It's your traditional IRA. It's your traditional 401k, right? Everything that comes out of that bucket is going to be ordinary income. This is what we call the tax torpedoes fuel because it fuels the tax bill. The more you take, the higher your taxes. That's one reason, Stephanie, that when we talk about where you're taking money from and we talk about taking a big munch out to pay off something, this is why it's not a good idea because it fuels that tax bill higher and higher. The second bucket is the after-tax bucket. That's your brokerage account, your savings accounts, money you've already paid tax on, your non-retirement account. Everything you've put into there has already been taxed. Whatever you make in that account every year gets taxed. Hopefully you've got qualified dividends that are coming into that account. Anything you sell, hopefully you've had them longer than years, so you get favorable long-term capital gains rates. So we get taxed at a very, very low rate on those things. Now, if it's interest income, that's different. That's going to be taxed at your ordinary rate. So we look for things that will pay us qualified dividends and things that are going to give us long-term capital gains because those things get tax-favored status. And then bucket three is a tax-free bucket. So that's going to be your Roth IRA, your Roth 401k. Those qualified withdrawals don't show up on your tax return on the income side. They don't feed the torpedo. They don't cause taxes to go up. It's a free pass when it comes to taxes. So here's the deal. When you have all three, it is a great situation to be in because you can choose which bucket to pull from each year based on its effect on your tax picture. And sometimes, Stephanie, we use all three buckets
right
as we pull off, monthly income. It's a great, great opportunity. I love it when I have all three buckets to work with.
I love the fact you get to choose from which one you pull from. That's pretty powerful. What does that control look like in practice?
Well, it looks like this, right? You need extra cash. And I had this happen, right? So I had a client that it was time to buy a car. And they'd saved up and, they'd been saving some money, but they needed another 15, 20 grand in order to make that happen. And so I said, well, look, you've got it in the Roth IRA. If we take it out of something else, it's going to put you in a higher tax bracket. Let's just take it out of the Roth IRA and be done. And that's what we did. And guess what? That extra money to pay to get the car didn't cost him anything in taxes.
Wow. That's all.
Yeah. So in reality, that's what makes it so sweet is that we've got options to use. And, you need extra cash. Hey, look, we can look at it. And I tell people this all the time, all my clients. I said, look, don't call me and say, I want to take $15,000 out of this account. Call me and tell me you need $15,000 and ask me how to take it. Because I'm going to go look at everything in your portfolio. I'm going to look at all your accounts. I'm going to come back and tell you, here's the most efficient and effective way to take that money out. And so, and that's the key, right? That's understanding the tax impact of taking money out. And so you can, kind of the same retirement, the same spending, but man, you can have such a meaningful, different tax outcome with having the different buckets there. And think about it, what could that be worth over a lifetime? Tens of thousands of dollars in taxes, Stephanie. It's a big deal.
It's worth it. Yeah, it's a lot of money. So you mentioned the Roth accounts as a tax-free bucket. Most people have their retirement savings concentrated in traditional IRAs and 401ks. How can you build the Roth bucket if you don't already have one?
If you're not still working, if you're still working, and hopefully your 401k offers the Roth bucket now, a lot of them do. I have my clients start using that as where you contribute your money into the Roth bucket. But for folks who don't have any opportunity or they're already stopped working, there's a thing called Roth conversions. Now, a lot of people, they kind of dismiss them because they know they're going to pay some tax. Because on a Roth conversion, you pay tax now at today's known rates, what we know they are today, so that the money then grows tax free. The benefit of that is we don't have to do it all or nothing. We can choose how much to convert. I have some clients that convert $5,000 or $10,000 a year. Does it make a huge difference? No, but every little bit we convert makes a difference on the tax side. So I think a laddered approach, sometimes when we put together a plan, we'll do a laddered approach, convert carefully sized amount each year to fill up somebody's tax bracket. So if you're in the 22% tax bracket, we'll do a Roth conversion and take you right up to the edge, maybe just a little over that 22 to the 24, so that you're maxing out that tax bracket that you would have to pay tax in anyway, no matter what. Partial conversions, we'll look at 5 to 7 years. We can usually move a substantial amount into the Roth. And right now we are seeing historically low effective tax rates. So folks need to take advantage of it. Now, I know most advisors aren't tax professionals, and they'll tell you, look, you need to talk to your CPA or your tax advisor. I'm a partner in a tax firm. I can tell you that one of the things that we walk through is a Roth conversion planning process to see what that looks like to folks. Look, having a plan is important. Don't play around with your retirement. Give me a call. Let's sit down and decide if you're going in the right direction. 863-877-1188. I'd love to spend an hour with you. Again, that's 863-877-1188.
And you are listening to the Statler Financial Radio Show with Philip Statler. He is the founder and president of Statler Financial, right out of Sebring, Florida. That number again is 863-877-1188. That's 863-877-1188. So, Philip, for somebody listening who has most of their savings in a traditional IRA or 401k, and they've never heard of the 3-bucket strategy, how can you help them figure out where they stand?
It comes to planning, Stephanie, and how much risk should they have in their current portfolio? And typically, I will tell you statistically, about 60% of the folks have too much risk in their current portfolio. There's about 20 to 30% of the folks out there that don't have enough risk in their portfolio. And there's about 10 or 15% that have it just right. It's part of our process to really go through and determine, what that looks like. And then we start looking at Roth conversions. How much should we have in a Roth? What makes the most sense when we start planning out those conversions? And for some people who are very tax adverse, we have to show them, look, yes, you're paying some tax now, but if this account grows until you're 73, and now all of a sudden you have to take out Y, and we don't know what the tax brackets are going to be then, but we know they probably have to go up because of the amount of debt we have and the interest rates going up. We're going to need more tax dollars, folks. There's just no way around it, which means we'll have to pay more in taxes. No matter what bracket you're in, don't think because you're in the low bracket that you're going to be immune. You won't be. The only way to make up that gap is to tax everybody more. I know everybody wants to tax the wealthy people, Stephanie, but the taxing the wealthy people isn't going to be enough to cover the bills.
That is not the good news we're looking for, Philip.
No, I know. I'm sorry.
So for the listeners at home right now who think their current retirement plan has addressed these tax issues because they have an advisor, what is your honest suggestion?
Well, what's the plan? What's your written plan look like? What do you have in front of you that says that the income you're going to get and the taxes you have to pay are going to be okay between now and when you turn 100. And people say, Philip, 100? Yeah, 100. If you're like me, I'm always looking at obituaries. As I know it's sad.
And I think it's our age. I think that's why we do that. Yeah.
How many people live to 100? I was talking to a client the other day. Mom lived to 104. I know my grandmother lived to 100. So it is important to plan out a strategy to get you to 100. And that's what we do. And so, like I said, and like the gentleman I was telling you about earlier who said, you've got to change the way you think when you retire. And I will tell you this, and he even told me this. He says, not a lot of advisors do that. They don't switch.
Mm-hmm.
They take care of everybody. They're generalists. They take care of people that are trying to grow their money and people trying to retire, and they use the same strategies. It's different. When you're getting ready to retire, the mindset has to be different. And most advisors out there, that's not their focus. 90% of our clients are either getting ready to retire or are retired. That's what we do. That's our business, is dealing with retirees and helping them have the retirement they always dreamed of by putting together plans that'll get them there. We understand the changes that have to be made when it comes to our thinking. And it's not everybody understands that. And I guess that's the key. Folks, listen, you need to get a second opinion. Give us a call and let's see if you're where you need to be. If you are, I'll tell you, everything looks great. No changes need to be made. But if there's something that you could be doing better, I'm going to honestly tell you, here's what you need to be doing. Give us a call, schedule a time, 863-877-1188. That's 863-877-1188.
All right, some great information, and the Statler Financial Radio Show will be right back.
Needing a second opinion on your retirement plan or to see if you're paying more than your fair share to Uncle Sam? Schedule your complimentary visit today. Text VISIT to 863-877-1188. That's VISIT to 863-877-1188.
Who likes uncertainty? Wall Street certainly doesn't. With fears of a potential recession and partisan politics, there's a lot of uncertainty right now. What will your future look like? Will your taxes go up? Will your savings go down? Here in the Sebring area, financial advisor Philip Statler and the team at Statler Financial Services have seen uncertainty come and go. Philip can help you create a plan designed to preserve your finances in uncertain times. And it's not a matter of if those uncertain times will show up, but when. Call 863-877-1188 now to meet with Philip Statler and the team at Statler Financial Services. Call 863-877-1188 and schedule your visit today. 863-877-1188. Advisory services offered through Second Half Financial Partners, LLC, a SEC-registered investment advisor. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal.
Do you have a retirement plan but would like a second opinion? Call Philip Statler today, 863-285-3815, Statler Financial Services, 863-285-3815.
Welcome back to the Statler Financial Radio Show with founder and president of Statler Financial Services, Philip Statler. I'm Stephanie Griffin. Philip gets questions each and every week about all things retirement. So we're going to open up our Statler Financial mailbag, and we're going to go over some common questions right now. All right, Philip, our first question is from Jeff in Lake Placid. We're about to retire and downsize from our large family home to a condo. We expect to clear a significant profit from the sale. What might be some of the tax implications of selling our primary residence, and what are some possible ways to handle the proceeds?
Well, first of all, Jeff, hopefully your home will be tax-free, right? So here's the deal. Here's the rule. If you've lived in that house for at least 3 out of the last 5 years, then up to $500,000 of long-term capital gains are exempt. So let's say you sell your house for $1 million and you paid $250,000 for it, but then you added a pool, you added some other stuff, and now before you know it, you got another $250,000 in it. So you got $500,000 in it. You sell it for $1 million minus your closing cost, right? Which you're going to get you down to $950. No tax due whatsoever. No tax. It's a great, great thing to do. So once that's done, and well, let's take another scenario, right? And let's say you go over that $500,000 of exemption, then anything over that's going to be taxed at the long-term capital gains rate, which for most people out there is going to be between 0 and 15%. And so a lot of it will be at 0. You may have a little bit of 15%, but we can help walk you through that. And then lastly, as we look at how to invest that money, that's kind of a loaded question right now, Jeff, because I don't know enough about you to tell you how to invest it. There's different avenues we would look at. I can tell you the process we would go through is we would kind of determine what your risk number is, and then we would develop a plan around that number. We want to make sure that we diversify between safety and risk, and then diversify the risk bucket down even more. It's going to depend upon what other assets you have as well. Do you have a Roth IRA? Do you have a 401k? Do you have traditional IRAs? What does that look like? We're going to take all of those pieces of information and put it into a plan. And then, here's where I am. Here's how I'm going to get to where I need to be. But a lot of possibilities there, and I'd love to chat with you.
All right, our next question. Marge from Sebring says, my spouse passed away last year, and I'm still navigating the financial transition. I know there are special Social Security rules for survivors. I'm not sure how they work or when I should claim. Can you explain the basics of survivor benefits?
Well, Marge, I'm not sure your age, not sure your husband's age. There's a lot of factors there that I kind of need to know before I can really answer that question. I'll give you some basics though. One of the basics is that if your spouse passes away, then you can start drawing on their benefit at age 60. That's the widow's benefit. Now it is subject to income rules. So if you make too much money, and usually that's like 20, right? I think now this year's $22,000 or $24,000, they're going to take money away from you. So you need to have that planned out properly. A matter of fact, I'll tell you, I have a client right now we're working on whose spouse died a while back, but she will be 60 here in a few years. And so she's going to start drawing off of his record when she hits 60, and she's going to semi-retire. And so, there are some benefits to that. And if your survivor benefits are more than what your benefits will ever be, then you can just keep drawing off of their benefit. If not, when you get to 67, then you can flip to your benefit, which hopefully will be higher at that point in time. So that's a way to look at it. The other thing we do too is spouse passes away, has a 401k. You're not 59 and a half yet. We want to put that into an inherited IRA, not in your IRA. Right. Because in inherited IRA, you have access to that money prior to age 59 and a half because you inherited it. And so the person I was just talking about, same thing. We left his 401k money in an inherited IRA, so she has access to that money now before she's 59 and a half. A key provision. And we do that for any spouse that's not 60 or older. We're going to take that deceased spouse's amount and we're going to put it into an inherited IRA. All this stuff comes into planning, and planning is what we love to do here at Statler Financial. We want to make sure that folks have a plan, a guide to guide them into and through retirement. Give us a call, 863-872-5800. 877-1188. I think that you're in a quandary, you're getting ready to retire. Let's sit down. Let's put a plan together so that you have a map to follow and get you through. Again, that number 863-877-1188.
A lot of great questions today, Philip. Can you talk a little bit about your core retirement design that you have at Statler Financial?
Absolutely. So our core retirement design looks at 3 areas and addresses those 3 areas of concern of retirees. The first concern is risk. Folks don't like the market's volatility. And so that's the first thing we really measure is how much risk is in your current portfolio, and then how much risk should be in that portfolio based on your risk tolerance. And we map that out for you. And then secondly is tax planning, putting together the Roth conversion plan, see what makes sense there. How much can we convert and keep you in the same tax bracket? We'll lay out a plan for those conversions. And then lastly is an income plan, putting together an income plan that's going to allow you to know, here's how much money I have to spend if I need to every month. And that's really gives people comfort to know, including my Social Security, my pension, and how much money I can take out of my accounts. I've got $5,000 I can spend. That just gives them the understanding of where they are and what needs to happen to keep them moving forward.
So if you are interested in turning your savings into a plan, call the team at Statler Financial today. Don't put that off any longer. If you've been thinking about that, pick up the phone, 863-877-1188. You can also text the word VISIT, VISIT, to that same number, 863-877-1188. Thank you so much for listening to the Statler Financial Radio Show.
Needing a second opinion on your retirement plan or to see if you're paying more than your fair share to Uncle Sam? Schedule your complimentary visit today. Text VISIT to 863-877-1188. That's VISIT to 863-877-1188.
Advisory services offered through Second Half Financial Partners, LLC, a SEC-registered investment advisor. The opinions voiced and information provided in this material are for general informational purposes only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. To determine what investments are appropriate for you, please consult with a financial advisor. Second Half Financial Partners, LLC does not provide tax or legal advice. Please consult your tax or legal advisor regarding your particular situation. This radio show is a paid placement.
Who likes uncertainty? Wall Street certainly doesn't. With fears of a potential recession and partisan politics, there's a lot of uncertainty right now. What will your future look like? Will your taxes go up? Will your savings go down? Here in the Sebring area, financial advisor Philip Statler and the team at Statler Financial Services have seen uncertainty come and go. Philip can help you create a plan designed to preserve your finances in uncertain times. And it's not a matter of if those uncertain times will show up, but when. Call 863-877-1188 now to meet with Philip Statler and the team at Statler Financial Services. Call 863-877-1188 and schedule your visit today. 863-877-1188. Advisory services offered through Second Half Financial Partners, LLC, a SEC-registered investment advisor. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal.